I see Craig Gass has shown up on the Zoom. Hey, Craig.
Hey, buddy. How are you? Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, how are you doing?
I'm doing good, man. I've been excited to get in and reconnect with you and catch up.
Cool. And you doing one-night stands tonight, tomorrow, Saturday?
Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
Oh, tomorrow.
Total of 4 shows, one-night stands. And whenever my comedian friends ask me, hey, where are you going next? And I, like, for the last week, I said, I'm going to Detroit. Where are you performing at? And I'm like, all right, listen. The name of the owner, his name is Stan, okay? His name is Stan, all right? And that's why the club is called One Night Stands. And I feel like I have to explain it every time, and my friends, because they think I'm going to like a lifestyle party, you know?
Yeah, I got it right off the bat, but I suppose some people might be troubled by that. Hey, I was watching you on Kumia, and the funniest story about Anthony calling into Stern as Sam Kinison, and he does Sam pretty well. And he thought, I'm on the Stern show. I'm one of the special people now. And then you came along. I guess you were doing stand-up, and you appeared on the show, and your Sam Kinison trumped his, and then you went on to tell a story, but you actually knew Sam Kinison, which I thought, wait a second, is this guy old enough to know Sam Kinison? Is this bullshit? And then there's a video that proves it.
Oh yeah, I'm 17 or 18 years old, and I'm doing coke with Sam.
How else would you know him?
Yeah, I was just a kid who I never wanted to be a comedian, but partied with Sam, partied with his opener, who was his best friend, Carl LeBeau, and I ended up becoming friends with Carl. And I moved to Vegas because of Carl. Carl's in 2020 he got sick. He had cancer. He was dying, and I spent his last year with him, just keeping him company in Las Vegas. And because of that time in Las Vegas, I realized, wow, this is actually a great city. And I ended up moving to Vegas because of that. But yeah, man, that video of me with Sam is nuts. Do you have it? You want me to send it to you?
I'm looking for it.
Hair?
It's on your Instagram, correct?
Yeah, it's on my Instagram. I got long hair. I look like I'm in Warrant or Motley Crue.
Yeah, you don't look like Craig Gass, as we know Craig Gass. But the way you came to do Sam Kinison was a great story, and the way you kind of topped it off by going into The Voice was just like, oh my God! I mean, you really have him nailed.
Yeah, it was the video that I have that's on my Instagram of me with Sam. That night, Sam was hosting this party at the NAMM show. The NAMM show is this big music industry thing out in LA, where all the guitar manufacturers will have all their rock stars that they endorse come in to help them feature their products. And they have these big parties at night. And Sam was hosting this party that had an all-star. Oh my God!
Look at that. Looking at it, yeah.
Look at Craig. Oh my God, your hair is so long.
Yeah,
wow.
how'd you fit that hat on?
Cocaine.
Who's behind you? Who's the third guy in that picture?
That looks like Dweezil Zappa. I'm not sure if that's
Really?
Dweezil.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I'm not sure who that was. But and then I know when the camera pans, you can see there's another comedian. Oh man, he was one of the outlaws of comedy. Oh, what was his name? I can't remember his name. But this party that Sam hosted. I have 30 minutes of him at the party, hosting this party. And friends of mine would hear about it that I was going to high school with, and they'd say, hey, man, do you have like some kind of bootleg video, Sam? And I'd say, yeah, man, come over. And I'd watch this video over and over again, and the voice just got stuck in my head. I've always had that knack for doing voices because of how I grew up. And I know I told the story years ago with you, but for those who don't know, and this is not a joke, my whole family's deaf. Everyone in my family is deaf. My mom, my dad, and my sister are all completely deaf. Or, as Lars Ulrich described it when I opened for Metallica, Lars Ulrich actually introduced me to his band by saying, hey man, this is Craig. This is the guy who does all the voices, and check it out. His whole family is retarded. Dude, they're deaf. What the hell is wrong with you? He just got it slightly off. Yeah, I'm sure you get this from a lot of your guests, but I can curse, right?
Yeah, sure, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, all right. So yeah, but my whole family's deaf, and growing up in a deaf family, I couldn't learn how to talk. from my family. I learned how to talk by watching TV and copying all the voices I heard on TV. I never got an accent from the Bronx, which is where I'm from. And I always say that everybody in the Bronx, and this is true, everybody in my neighborhood sounded like Tracy Morgan. Everybody in the Bronx talk like this, whether you black or white, male or female. That's crazy. Hey, this is the voice of your next door neighbor, and I'm a Vietnamese girl. That's crazy. The weirder the voice, the easier it was for me to do it. And early on, watching this bootleg video I had of Sam hosting this party, his voice just got stuck in my head, which, by the way, one of the nicest people I've ever met in comedy is Tom Arnold. Have you ever had Tom Arnold on?
Yes, absolutely, a number of times, and he's a great guest too. He'll talk about anything.
Yeah. You know what I love about him is he's incredibly honest. He has no filter. The first time I ever met Tom was a prank phone call. I was still living in Seattle. I'm from New York, but I started doing stand-up in Seattle, and found out from a friend of mine there was a big grand opening of Planet Hollywood in Seattle, and a buddy of mine who was an open mic comedian was working at this hotel, and he said, dude, all the celebrities are there. Arnold Schwarzenegger, Sylvester Stallone, Tom Arnold. And I went, Tom Arnold is at your hotel? And he goes, yeah, dude. And Tom Arnold had just killed it in True Lies and 9 months. So
it's funny that he was keeping that company at that time. I mean, I doubt he hangs around with company like that a lot now, although maybe, I don't know. He's a nice guy.
Well, he was staying, I find out he's staying at the hotel, so I look up the number in the phone book, and I call the hotel. And they said, Seattle Hilton, how can I help you? And I said, hi, Tom Arnold, please. And she goes, okay, just one moment. And she put me through. And Tom Arnold picked up the phone, and he goes, hello. And I said, Tom, it's Sam Kinison. And Sam Kinison had been dead for 20 years at that point. And Tom Arnold said, hey, buddy, how you been? And I go, hey, Tom, I need some help. I need you to help me in the afterlife. And he goes, whatever you need, buddy. I'll be here for you. What do you need me to do? And I said, well, I need you to get me some cocaine. And this is, I need you to follow my instructions. First of all, I need you to front me the cash. And then I want you to purchase the cocaine, and this is where it gets tricky. I want you to fly back to Los Angeles, and I want you to drive to, oh God, I forgot his name, the Nutty Professor. What's that guy's name?
Jerry Lewis?
Jerry Lewis. I want you to drive to Jerry Lewis's house. And then I want you to take the cocaine and I want you to put it in the small pocket of his pants, and I'll have it when he gets here in 3 weeks. Wow! Wow! And then finally, I just stopped and said, man, I'm sorry, Tom. My name's Craig Gass. I'm a stand-up comedian, and I'm a huge fan of yours. And he said, man, that impression is so good. I need to call my sponsor right now. That's how good it is. And yeah, that Sam Kinison has actually helped open up a couple doors for me. And one of them was meeting Tom Arnold, who was an incredible human being.
Isn't part of the key to doing Tom, though? Isn't it sounding like you have a cold?
Yeah, it's manic. Some voices are just easy for me to do. I can just hear them in my head. And but yeah, it's like a manic. It's like a stuffed up. Tom is not. He's not a fan of mine anymore. Oh. And it bums me out because it really is. It's a joke.
Because you're doing his voice so well.
Well, it's not just doing his voice.
It's what you do with his voice.
I'm sure you guys are familiar with, like, you guys have probably done radio junkets where you're like with a bunch of stations, right?
Oh, Trudy did tons of them.
No, just one.
She gives service after the sale too. She talks about them for decades.
Yeah. So every year I go to the Super Bowl every year, and I'll interview the players every year at the Super Bowl. I'm a huge football fan. By the way, rooting like most of the country for the Lions this year.
Yeah.
And if you look at the interviews I did, it was me, Carrot Top, and Bert Kreischer. Yep. We interviewed the 49ers and the Chiefs. My favorite question to ask the 49ers was, you feel bad for Detroit?
And they don't.
Like, you know, because I was like, don't you feel bad for the people in Detroit? Like, I felt like everybody was rooting for the Lions to get in there.
I thought it was crazy how many people did not know who Carrot Top was, and then all of a sudden, everybody. That was weird. I thought everybody in Vegas would know who Carrot Top.
Yeah, hell yeah. Hey, by the way, who are you doing this junket on behalf of? You and Bert and Carrot Top.
Every year I'll go to the Super Bowl and I'll do it on behalf of the sports stations that are in the market, the markets that are being represented. Because I have so many friends in sports radio now that I'll contact them and I'll say, hey, I'll get some video stuff for you, and I'll mainly focus it on the 2 markets that are represented. I'll send it out to them, and they'll share it locally. So,
Smart.
But every year there's a Super Bowl media center. Tons of sports stations from all over the world are broadcasting from the Super Bowl Media Center. And my friends in sports radio, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, there's no celebrities in town yet. Nobody gets into town. So my friends will call me up and say, hey, do you mind joining us and pretending to be a celebrity? So it sounds cool back in Omaha where we're broadcasting to. And the only remotely sports guy I can do an impression of is Tom Arnold, who used to host the Best Damn Sports Show, period. And I will go full-blown Tom Arnold on the air when they say, we're live at the Super Bowl and we're with Tom Arnold. Tom, what's going on? Hey, guys. It's pretty crazy. I'm out here, and a lot of celebrities are coming into town for the Super Bowl. And I was actually at a Cocaine Anonymous meeting last night with Brett Favre. I probably shouldn't say that out loud. Brett's a big cokehead. And you know, and his sponsor is Brian Gumble, who's addicted to upskirt porn. Again, I shouldn't say this out loud, but he's always pumping off at work. And I'll just throw out random sports figures and attach them to addictions. And every year, the internet will attack Tom Arnold and go, dude, it's supposed to be anonymous, you asshole. What the fuck you? And Tom Arnold will fight every individual on Twitter and go, hey, did you notice that Sam Kinison was also on the air? That guy's been dead for 30 years, you idiot. Fuck you. You don't know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Tom he's a relentless guy. I mean, he was after, what was it, Trump saying the N-word?
Yeah,
he was chasing that for
time.
years.
Yeah.
He's also, when it comes to recovery, and this is what I really admire about him, he's so into recovery and saving people's lives that if he hears that somebody's in trouble, like, he will literally break down a door to get you out of a spot and get you some help. Like, he's really hardcore about helping people who are struggling with drugs and alcohol addiction, and I love that about him. But you know, I just take it to an extreme level. You know, it's like when I would do Gene Simmons on the air, it's like, it's the idea of well, what if I sold shit to everybody? What if I, you know, the radio show that I got my big break on, every time we had a music guest in the studio, I would constantly interrupt the music guest as Gene Simmons and try to sell them shitty Kiss products. You know?
Well, Craig, you have to tell a story then that reminds me of Sebastian Bach going to Gene's house.
Oh yeah. Well, everyone that knows Kiss would come out of the woodwork to share stories with me, and one of them, I did this music video with Sebastian Bach, which, by the way, we filmed it a couple months ago. It's already got over 1 million views. It's a
good
song called
It's great.
What Do I Got to Lose? Yeah.
I think do we play that?
Yeah, that's him at the beginning. Is that you at the beginning in the boots?
Yeah, that's me doing the impression of him. And Sebastian told me this amazing story about going to Jean Simmons' house, and he goes, dude, I was at that guy's fucking house, and that guy has a fucking Kiss museum at his house, which is true. Gene Simmons has an entire room, and when I say a room, it's like a massive, like, 2 or 3 living room size space that has every piece of Kiss merchandise that's ever existed, including the casket, the dolls, everything. And Sebastian Bach notices when he walks in, he goes, there is like a bag with like 100 Kiss cell phone covers. And I said, dude, what the fuck is that? And Gene goes, that's our new promotion for Kissmas. That's our new Kiss cell phone covers. Can I have one of those? I wish I could, but if you go to kissonline.com. Like, he wouldn't give him one piece of plastic. Dude, that story is just the tip of the iceberg. There are guys. There's one guy I know who he works with a really successful band who was in a studio recording a new album, and he goes, "Hey, the guy who owns the studio is a fan of yours. Can I put him on the phone?" I said, "Of course." And the guy goes, "Man, I love your impressions. I'm a fan of your impressions, especially your Gene Simmons, because he was the first guy to ever fuck me over in this business. And I thought you would appreciate this story." So Gene came into my studio a few years ago, and he is producing an album for a new artist. And at the last minute, he tried to switch into my largest facility for the same amount of money. And when he showed up at the studio, he said, "Did you get my message? I want to use Studio A." And I said, "I did. I actually called you back. I don't know if you got my message, but someone is using that studio." And I asked them if they would switch, and they said no. "Do you know that they know that Gene Simmons from Kiss is here?" And he goes, "You know what? If you want to ask him, you can ask him, but I'm not going to ask him again." He goes, "All right, where's Studio A?" And he goes, "It's all the way down the hallway. It's the last door on the right." Gene Simmons goes walking down the hallway, opens up the door to Studio A, looks inside and sees the Wu-Tang Clan recording in
13 dudes.
And he closes the door, comes back up to the front and goes, "Right, where's Studio B?" He never even opened his mouth. God. Oh, and the best, by the way, is his relationship advice. I know a buddy of mine, he gave sex advice to, which a buddy of mine was working as a guitar tech for Kiss, and he said, no bullshit, while we were on tour, Gene hooked up with Miss America while we were on tour. It was the reigning Miss America. This is like 20 years ago. It was before he got married. He hooked up with Miss America while we were on tour.
I never knew Gene got that lucky, by the way. I believe it. I totally believe it.
And Miss America had that low of self-esteem, too.
Well, he's a big Kiss fan.
Okay, I have to confess something. I played baseball at Virginia Tech with a guy who fucked Miss America.
The same one?
She was from Virginia. No, this is like in the 70s. And the reason I remember it so well is the way Dennis described it, because he said, "Yeah, I cut her." He used to say, "I cut her."
Wow.
I know. I cut Miss America.
Yeah.
Come on.
Butter.
Well, this story won't be much better because it's funny because this story has a lesson in it, but I wouldn't recommend this lesson to anyone. So he hooks up with Miss America. The next night, the very next night, according to this guy who is a guitar tech, Gene then hooks up with a girl that he describes as just a whore. A girl that was such a mess that even the guys in the road crew were like, "Steve, did you see that? Oh my God." And the next night, Gene hooks up. They have a day off in a town that's so small that the band and the road crew are all staying in the same hotel. Usually Kiss will stay at a 5-star hotel and the crew will stay somewhere else. And this time they're all in the same hotel. And the guy is telling me from his point of view, he goes, "It was our night off. I was chilling out in the bar of the hotel, and I just happened to turn around right as Gene Simmons is walking through the lobby of the hotel, and he's dragging this enormous girl with him to the lobby. And he gets in the elevator, pushes the button to his floor, and then notices me across the bar and goes, 'Oh yeah.'" Yeah.
Oh, God.
And he said the next day at sound check, he walked up to him and said, "Gene, hey, did you hook up with that girl last night?" And he goes, "Of course." And he goes, "Steve, didn't you hook up with Miss America the other night?" And he goes, Steve, listen to me, okay? I'm going to give you some valuable advice. You can't have filet mignon every night. Sometimes you got to go to McDonald's." That's the worst advice I've ever heard.
Gene has a lot of isms, and
Yeah.
I was listening to an interview with him a while ago, and he just comes out with the weirdest things out of the middle of nowhere, like, "I taught 6th grade in Harlem." And it's like,
Yeah.
what?
Yep.
"My mother is an angel." He just throws these things out, whether it's, "I wanted Kiss to be all superstars, and then Ace and Peter had to abuse alcohol and drugs for 20 years and destroy it. They could have ruined the brand." But
Dude,
he just...
him and Paul are guilty of the same thing. But to your point, I remember MTV used to have that TV show called TRL. And this is when Kiss is, for some reason, it's not clicking anymore. And Kiss is now going down into theaters. And I believe it was whatever the album that had the Sphinx on the cover of it. They're on that tour. And Gene Simmons stops into TRL, and he does an interview with Carson Daly, and Carson goes, all right, well, this is it. We're about to take off. Anything else you want to say to the fans that are watching at home? And he goes, we're Kiss. We're back. Boom. All right. I mean, but dude, I've seen interviews with Paul Stanley where there's two Paul Stanleys. There's offstage Paul Stanley, where I heard him in an interview. Someone said, why is Kiss so amazing? It was a press conference. That was the question. Why is Kiss so amazing? And he goes, you know, a lot of bands are envious of Kiss. I'm even envious of Kiss. And I was like, God damn, that is some confidence, man.
I've never heard somebody do a good Paul Stanley. Yeah. That's perfect.
Yeah. Well, there's two Paul Stanleys. The onstage Paul Stanley, which is my favorite because he gives these speeches, and I'm quoting. This wasn't when I was living in Vegas. This is like 15 years ago, going to visit Vegas. Kiss and Aerosmith did a show together in Vegas. And Paul Stanley on stage said, all right, people, now listen. You know, I know this town, Las Vegas, Nevada, is known for its buffets. And I can tell you right now, I see a lot of people in the front row that I really want to eat. Wow. I saw the same show in New York City 2 months later, and I brought a bunch of comedians. I brought Steve Byrne, Jim Norton, and Jeff Ross. I brought them all backstage to this Kiss concert in New York City. And anybody that walks by that works for Kiss, I was like, hey, did you hear Paul Stanley on stage saying he was going to eat Las Vegas that night? Did you hear, like, was this eat Las Vegas? And 3 different guys that I talked to said, did you hear what he said in Omaha? And I said, no. Like 3 different guys said that apparently on stage in Omaha, Paul Stanley said, all right, people, now listen. You know, I know this town, Omaha, Nebraska, is known for its Angus beef. And I can tell you right now, after this show, I'm going to want to sink my teeth into some meat. And the whole crowd went, what? And apparently he realized, and he just came back to the mic and said, now, wait a minute, hold on. You know what I'm talking about. I'm talking about a thigh or a rump roast. And the crowd went, what? And then, wow. And apparently the guitar techs behind the stage were going, what the fuck? Everyone was confused.
Now, you opened for them, right, on tour? Did you open for Kiss?
Yeah, I did. So Gene and I have a confrontation on the air. He shows up in New York, and he confronts me live on the air about my impression of him.
Wait, on air, where were you?
That was on the Howard Stern show.
Oh, okay.
By the way, Howard Stern gave a whole speech 2 weeks ago about you guys and about the station and how powerful it was, and how he could, when he was in Detroit, he couldn't get anywhere because you guys were so huge.
He just recently, it's funny, I did not hear about that. Usually I hear every word he says about Detroit, but I did not hear that.
Wow.
Yeah, he gave a big, long, like a 20-minute speech about the station, about the market, and yeah, it was pretty cool. But Gene shows up, he confronts me live on the air, and the next day I got a phone call from Kiss's management company, McGee Entertainment, and they called me up and said, hey, Craig, we wanted to reach out to you to let you know that our singer, Paul Stanley, is your biggest fan. And I said, get the fuck out of here. Are you serious? They said, no. They said, don't tell anybody this, but Paul Stanley loves when anybody makes fun of Gene Simmons. Get the fuck out of here. Are you serious? They said, no. In fact, he's going to call you, and he wants to talk to you. And I said, about what? And they said, well, he'll tell you when he calls. And I get the phone call and had this wonderful conversation. And he said, hey, I don't know if you're interested, but I want to put you on this event we're doing called the Kiss Cruise. I want you to perform on the Kiss Cruise. And I was like, I would love, like, so you want me to what do you want me to introduce the band, or do you want me to do stand-up, or like, what do you want me to do? And he said, well, let me ask you a question. How many jokes do you have about Gene? Literally hours. And he went, you got the gig. And I was like, really? Holy shit. And so he ended up booking me on the Kiss cruise 4 times where I ended up, he would just kept encouraging me to make fun of Gene to his face. And by the way, do you guys know about the problems I've had now with Kiss fans because of the joke that I made on that ship?
About the selling of the iceberg?
So
yeah,
what happened
it's a great joke.
My first day on the first Kiss cruise, I meet the cruise director. She's super nice. She's really peppy. She's like the Julie McCoy of this Kiss cruise, right? And she says, wait a minute, you're Craig. You're the comedian, does the voices on Family Guy and all that. Like, do you want to do a funny announcement on the ship tomorrow morning? And I went, oh, fuck yes. Like, let me ask you a question. If I make a funny announcement, like, who's going to hear the announcement? And she said, well, if you want, we can flip a switch and it'll get piped into every cabin. And I said, flip that switch. I know exactly what I want everyone to wake up to. The next morning, 3,000 of the biggest Kiss fans in the world woke up to, bing bong. Hey, everybody, this is Paul Stanley. And this is Jean Simmons from Kiss. And we have a very important announcement. Do not panic, but we have a very important announcement about the Kiss cruise. At that moment, my friends on the ship said that all the fans stopped in their tracks and were looking at the speakers and smiling until the very next words that came out of my mouth. We've just hit an iceberg. Which,
The Bahamas.
keep in mind, when I said we just hit an iceberg, we're in the middle of the fucking Bahamas.
Yeah, I was going to say, you got to be in warm weather, really warm weather.
Yeah, there's no reason as an intelligent person you would go, this ship's going down! The ship's going down! We're in the fucking Bahamas! But do not panic, because Kiss is going to take care of everybody. We actually have 3 packages to get you off the ship. First, we have the platinum package, $5,000, where we'll put you in a life raft and you have your own private photo and medical care taken care of by Kiss. Then we have the diamond package. Isn't that right, Paul? That's right, the diamond package. For $10,000, we throw you in the ocean with Tommy and Eric, and Kiss will fly on a raft, and we'll do a private acoustic show. Everything I said was stupid. But apparently a couple of Kiss fans actually ran to the employees and said, so Kiss is going to charge us to get off the boat now? They actually believed it.
Because it's in the realm of possibility that they would charge people.
100%. 100%. And that's why. It's like it was plausible that Kiss would figure out a way to monetize an emergency.
So
No,
does Gene hate you now? I mean, how does he feel about you?
It's weird. He seems to be okay with me. And his son, Nick, is a huge his son is always coming to the Comedy Store in LA. And he has told me that his dad has developed a great sense of humor. He said, when you started doing that impression of my dad, comedy fan, and like it was right when my dad started laughing at himself. Like if you had started going out there and doing that impression even a few years earlier, like no bullshit, my dad would have hunted you down and just beat the shit out of you. Like he had no sense of humor. But you started to do that impression right when he started laughing at himself. So he kind of leaned into it and he enjoyed it. His son, by the way, is very much like his dad. His son's a handsome kid. He's like 6'6", always has beautiful women with him.
Yeah,
and,
of course.
And sometimes goes to McDonald's.
Sometimes what?
It goes to McDonald's.
Yeah. Oh, that's a solid line.
Yeah, Nick seems a little, he seems pretty full of himself based on the reality show.
Yeah, his kid's a good guy. He's a good dude, but there was one time I saw him in front of the Comedy Store, and he's with this girl. She was like 21 years old, and he goes, oh my God, Craig. Oh, hey, okay, Craig. Okay, Craig does an impression of my dad. He does like voices and like, okay, Craig, do Christopher Walken for her. And I said, wait, hold on. Do you know who Christopher Walken is? And she went, no. And I went, okay. And then, but Nick is insisting. He's like, no, you trust me. As soon as you hear the voice, you'll know. It's famous. It's really famous. Just do it. And I went, look, this is a guy who talks really weird. And every once in a while, he says the word cowbell, pow. And she went, oh. Good for you. And I went, good. Nick, you asshole. Like, I couldn't believe it. Like, he just set me up for disaster. I knew that was going to be bad.
Yeah, Christopher Walken seems to be one of the great impression guys. Seem to do Christopher Walken so well. I mean, your nuances are just absolutely perfect. And we had Caliendo on a few weeks ago, and he does Frank is so good. Are you friends with Frank Caliendo, by the way? You must be.
I am. I love Frank, and we always end up running into each other at the Super Bowl because we're both huge football fans. So we always end up hanging out at the Super Bowl, and we'll do radio spots together on Radio Row out there.
Perfect.
Yeah, and we'll usually he wants me to do Tom Arnold or Kinison to his John Madden, and then we just spin out into some bizarre premise with it. But dude, I love hearing a great impression. I love hearing a good impression. I love doing impressions, and love hearing a good story. Love telling a good story. So
impressions are so much fun. I think it became uncool or something for a while. And people, the problem I have with impressions is when they're not good. But when people do them as well as you guys do them, it's so fucking funny. People love it. But
yeah, and sometimes it's just I've introduced impressions before that of people nobody knows, but I just love the person so much. Like when I started doing that Gene Simmons impression, you had to be a Kiss fan to get it. And then he started doing his reality show, and everyone started getting it. I did an impression of Tracy Morgan just when he used to hang out in the clubs in New York because he was so nuts. And then he got on 30 Rock, and everyone got to know who Tracy Morgan was. And he started doing interviews where everybody could see how nuts he was. My favorite entertainment business story of all time is the Tracy Morgan story, which is me. I'm getting ready to open for Dave Chappelle at Caroline's when this agent runs up to me and he says, hey, did you hear about that party last Saturday night? And I go, did I hear about what? And he goes, did you hear about the fucking party last Saturday night? And I go, no, what party? And he goes, Tracy Morgan had a party that turned into a fucking orgy. I go, what? And he goes, we're all standing around with our suits on, and there's naked people just fucking. And I went, what? Fucking? Like that? Like fucking like that?
You got two fingers going together.
Two dicks.
But then Tracy Morgan comes around the corner and takes off all his clothes, and he starts getting in. And I go, what? When was this? And he said, last Saturday night. Right at that moment, Tracy Morgan walks around the corner. I haven't seen Tracy in probably a year at this point. I looked over and I went, Tracy! I heard your party was fucked up, man. Tracy Morgan rolled over and just eyeballed me. Before he finally said, it was crazy. It was crazy, Craig. You know what's crazy about it? When you get off on my floor, you don't even hear nothing. You don't hear nothing at all. Then you start walking towards my apartment, but you still don't hear nothing. Then you knock on my door, but you still don't hear nothing, right? And when I open the door, there's buttholes and toes everywhere. I went, what the fuck? And just because I've never heard that phrase before, I clarified. Did you just say buttholes and toes? And Tracy Morgan said, yeah. Before he added, some of them toes were in the buttholes. And he walked out. The coolest story I've ever heard in my life.
All right, Craig, fantastic stuff. I hope everybody goes to see you at One Night Stands Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and did you say Sunday too?
No, just Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and
2 shows.
I'll be telling more Tracy Morgan stories, and I'm ending my set with a comedy piece I call I think Gene Simmons is going to kill me. And
excellent.
And I think you'll get a huge kick out of it. Yeah, One Night Stands. The tickets are at getgas.com. Getgas with 2 S's.com. Or you can go to the One Night Stands website, and again, they're located in Waterford Township. So looking forward to seeing everybody in Waterford Township this weekend, man, Thursday through Saturday. luck.
Well, Craig, it's great to see you, man.
Yeah, good
Very
hearing from you.
Really enjoyed it.
Really great to see you guys too, man. I'm glad you guys are well, and I'm looking forward to next time.
You got it.
Thanks, Craig.
All right. Craig Gass at One Night Stands in Waterford. Man, we haven't talked to Craig in a while.
No, we didn't get to talk to him about living with Eddie Van Halen, which is just bizarre that he
What?
lived with Eddie Van Halen.
My
No,
God.
he definitely has a knack for when he finds action, he gets mixed up in it.
Like Caliendo's in that sports world. Craig's in this like rock world. It's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah, Caliendo, he doesn't do any Gene Simmons or anything of that ilk.
No, I mean he's really strong in the world of sports.
Yeah, Gene just seems like a voice that once you get into it, there's a lot you can do with it. It's a lot of fun.
Every time he was telling stories, it's like, this is Gene Simmons from Kiss. I don't know why that kills. Like he has to say he's from Kiss.
Plus, it just sounds so utterly believable.
Yeah.
that Gene would say it that way.
Definitely all about branding.
It's a good day to be above ground.
He was about branding before anybody was about branding. Too.
was.
Yeah.